Hello, students, and welcome to a brand new chapter. Here we'll be taking the first chapter in your social and political life, which has the name of what is democracy, the meaning of democracy, and understanding democracy. In your last year, in your sixth standard, you had learned about many things, which was like diversity, understanding diversity, how different people live in different ways, our different cultures, different religions that we have, and the different way people behave. Then we also learned about the Panchayat Raj, we learned about the local administrations, we learned about how state governments work, how democracy works. All these things is what we did in your social and political life in your sixth standard. Now, when you're coming to seventh standard, the level goes up a little bit. And one of the very important factors of our Indian life, a very important part of being Indian, being a citizen of India, is that of democracy. Having democracy with us is a very key role which democracy plays in our everyday life. So it becomes our duty to understand actually what this under democracy means, from where it came, how it began, and what is the actual importance or actual use of democracy. And along with this, we'll also learn about some of the very important points of democracy, mainly the point of where all people are treated equal in a democracy. So here in front of you, you can see, a lot of hands raised. Like sometimes you raise your hands in class, right, when you're very eager to answer a question. So similarly over here, democracy basically means that everyone is included. Nobody is excluded from democracy. Everyone is a part of democracy. Everybody is a part of the decision-making process. Whenever the government comes out with a decision, it is the people who are actually deciding over there. They are the deciding factor. The power is in the hands of the people. That is the main and most fundamental meaning of democracy. There are many factors which are responsible for democracy. There are many things which actually come into play to make democracy actually work. There is human rights, there are responsibilities of a citizen. There may be a group of people who are more in number, whereas the other group of people are lesser in number. They form a majority, but we should the democracy needs to ensure that the majority does not put their force or their compulsion, put their uh, pressure on the minority people. That is where equality comes in, the rule of law, elections, freedom. There are so many things which come together to actually make democracy work. I'll tell you a small story over here. uh, Many times when you go out to the ground to play something, to play a game, there are some classes where the girls are very few in number. There are more number of boys in the class. There's a classroom of 30 students, wherein only 10 students are girls and 20 students are boys. And obviously, the boys want to play football, but the girls have no interest in playing football. But there is only one ball available over there. So your PE sir, he says, why don't you all get together and play one game which everyone can play properly? But somehow the boys say, no, we are more in number. So we are 20 of us. We 20 boys are there over here. So we will play a game that we want to play. We are not going to listen to what the girls have to say over here. So this is where the majority, that is the boys, are trying to force their view or their whatever they want to do on the lesser number, that is the girls who are only 10 in number. So obviously over here the girls don't have a choice. But if the girls, group of girls and the group of boys, they both discuss together, they come together and they say that okay, why not we all together will play volleyball. No, we can play volleyball or we can play handball or throw ball, wherein one side has 15 students, the other side has 15 students. We can all play together. Or we can also play, let us not use the ball altogether. We'll play hide and seek. We can all play together. This is where a common ground is reached, the understanding is reached between both the group of people. And this is basically one of the very essences or very key points of democracy. So, what I want you to do as a student over there is in your books, write a similar story which you feel where a democratic component is being used, where students, I want the story to be about students. Write a story about students where democracy is being used, where students' opinions are being taken, students are being heard, where you can voice what your problem is and people are there ready to hear your problem. A democratic story, I want you to write that in your books, and we can read it out once you all come back to school. One by one we can read it out, we can learn some new learnings from this democracy thing. So the meaning of democracy is, the textbook meaning you can see is democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people. This is the official meaning of democracy, the textbook meaning of democracy. This is what actually democracy means. And the official meaning of democracy. So who are the rulers? If the rulers are elected by the people, who are the rulers? How are they elected? What is this election that we are talking about? Who are the people? Are the rulers greater than the people? Are the people greater than the rulers? Are they separate? If they are elected, if they are chosen, what kind of government do they form? Is that some name for this government? Abraham Lincoln had said that democracy is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. I uh, apologize for the mistake in the name of Abraham Lincoln, a small typo while I was typing, but please excuse me. Sorry for that. So the meaning of democracy given by Abraham Lincoln is democracy is a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So the government over here is being formed by the people, it is for the people, and it is the main opinion, the voice of the people which is being heard. If we look into the history of democracy, democracy has a very, very, very old history. The roots of democracy comes from ancient Greece. This is one of the first countries in the world, uh, almost dating back to 16th century BCE, Common Era, where it is said that the people of Greece, they used to sit in the form of a parliament, like you see in your screens over here. They would sit over there, and then they would discuss about things. They would discuss what decisions to be taken, what policy changes to be made, what new law to be put, what new taxes to be collected from the people. All these things they used to discuss, and only then they used to implement. So this is one of the first forms of democracy which we see, and it was exhibited in 16th century Greece. Very, very old. The idea of democracy definitely is very old, but somehow it took a very long time, a very long period for it to actually come into existence. There are various reasons why democracy actually came into existence. Renaissance in Europe. This is a period in Europe wherein we saw a rebirth. Renaissance basically means rebirth. We saw a rebirth of art. We saw a rebirth of literature. We saw a rebirth of science and philosophy, and all this. It led to a growth and the implementation of the concept of democracy. There was lots of many different ideas coming out in Europe during that period of time in history, where people were thinking of different ways in which people can be living a better life. And we also saw a revolution in England in the year 1688, which actually gave the strongest of roots for democracy in England. So, this is one of the factors which led to the growth of democracy. Next, we also have the American War of Independence, one of the first large countries to actually get independent from British rule. They formed their own nation, and they also went forward to write their own constitution, one of the oldest democracies in the entire world, the entire free world. So, the American War of Independence is a very milestone, it's a very key milestone in the journey of democracy in world history. Then we also have the French Revolution, which gave a large contribution to the democratic world. The ideas which came out from the American War of Independence were carried forward by the French Revolution. And the French people came up with lots of many different ideas. The form of government that we have nowadays in our country, wherein we have a judiciary, we have the executive, and then we have the legislative. All these three different organs of the government that we see, this is all a result of the French Revolution. This has come out from the French Revolution. This is where it has been implemented and used for the first time ever, and the fruits of that is what we are able to see today, the independent life that you are able to live today, the democratic government that you are having the comfort of all this is mainly because of the French Revolution. And then we also have the famous world wars, World War One and World War Two. These two also gave a very strong root for democracy. People found out that being under the rule of a king, or what is also called as a monarchy, is not a very good choice. It is not the way forward for the future. The world wars taught people that they are being subject to the greed of a few people, and it is the majority of the common people who are suffering because of these world wars and the greed that they exhibit, their ambitions. So world wars were other factor which led to the implementation of democracy throughout the world. And of course, then we have the very famous Russian Revolution. Of course, the Russians did not form a democratic government. They had a very different idea of how to rule their country. The idea of socialism, which was born during the Russian Revolution, you will of course learn when you come ahead into the ninth standard. But for now, what you need to understand from the Russian Revolution was that the Russian Revolution also played a very important role in forming a different kind of society in Russia. It came out after the Second World War as a very strong country, mainly because of the ideas which were given to them by their leaders. So over here, what we will do is we will take a small break and continue in the next class. But for now, as I told you, what you will be doing after you have watched this video is you will be writing a small story about a democratic decision or a democracy in the student life, like the story that I told you of the children going to the playground to playing football. Similarly, I want you to write a different kind of story, any kind of story which comes to your mind. But you will be writing this in your notebooks. Write it in 1 or 2 pages, not very big, but write a nice, wonderful story, whatever comes out from your imagination. So that's all for now. We will meet again in the